Hi, everyone. My name is Natalia Green, and I'm hosting tonight a Baddie to Baddie conversation about partnership and metastatic breast cancer. Um, my husband and I, Danny, will be joined with Stephanie and John, and we'll be talking about our metastatic journey and our partnerships. So, Stephanie, tell me about your, if you don't mind sharing, kind of like where you're at in your breast cancer journey and your prognosis right now.
Well, let's see. I was diagnosed in 2015 de novo, bone mets only to one area, supposedly my hip. It was my right hip. I did everything that you're told to do, mammogram, self breast checks, and whole 9 yards. But anyway, that's what happened. I didn't really know that much about metastatic breast cancer. And I say that being a nurse for almost 40 years now, I knew about cancer. I knew about pediatric cancers. I knew about chemo, all that. I did that part with them, But as far as breast cancer, it wasn't even on a radar, family-wise. High blood pressure, yeah. Kidney disease, possibly. That, but never breast cancer. But anyway, went through the standard of care, chemo, radiation, bilateral mastectomy by choice, and NED since March of 2016.
Well, so I hope he came with some questions. This is actually the first time that he and I have ever talked to another metastatic couple.
Us too.
Which is really interesting. It seems like, more of us should be talking, but, in this community, we have, mostly a lot of people who are early stagers. And we all kind of talk about that journey, especially during that first year of being diagnosed. So this will be really interesting. And I'm really I really feel privileged, and I'm excited to talk to you about this perspective. And, that it's really incredible that both you, and not incredible, it's actually unfortunate, but that both of you guys have had cancer. So I'm sure there's a lot of things you both can relate to, that perspective that maybe. So I hope you guys aren't shy, and I hope I don't.
No.
I got some questions that might put you out there, and
go ahead. Like I said, I tell everybody with this story of mine, I'm an open book. So ask away.
So are we. We really are. I mean, I'm on Instagram always sharing my stuff, just because I just think people, especially Black women, but people of color, should be out there sharing their stories, because I think we're so underrepresented in general, and people aren't, they don't know, the same journey or this narrative that, so I'm also an open book just because of that. So.
Well, I do have a question now that I see you. How are you handling being an interracial couple in the days time as they are now, and metastatic breast cancer?
That's a good question. For me, I think his answer will be different than mine. For me, race is, so we are both from Utah. And I don't know if you know anything about Utah, but there's a whole lot of white folks out here.
Yes, girl, yes.
My parents are both from El Salvador, and we kind of grew up on different side of the tracks as far as where we went to school and where we lived. And it's not like I had a lot of money growing up or anything like that, but race has always been prevalent in my life. And especially as I got older, especially when I started moving away from and going to college from my own community, because where I lived, there was a lot of diversity at my school and who we were associated with. But being married, and integrating our families, race has been prevalent, especially politically, even from back, when Obama was originally elected. I've had to have really awkward conversations maybe with his side of the family of maybe don't say that, don't send me this email, those types of things.
Mm-hmm.
And then as far as being diagnosed, it has been interesting because I feel like because I'm married to, so my not only is he white, but my husband's also an attorney, and I feel like there's a place, I'm in this space of privilege that maybe someone like me or other people of color wouldn't be able to get the type of care or the same access because of my association or my marriage to this person. Because I've been at doctor appointments when people can't pay for their copays and those things, and I'm not experiencing those same issues. And you know, every once in a while, I kind of think about, like, am I treated differently because of that? You know, because of this guy who's sitting next to me, or you know, his health insurance or those types of things. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
But as someone of color, like, I'm always trying to advocate for myself. And you know, with the bone mats, like, it can be really painful sometimes. And it made it really awkward for me to talk about my pain with my doctors, because I don't want to be that. I want them to know that I'm serious and what I'm feeling in my body is not right. And I'm not just asking for pain medicine.
Hey, I just went through that.
Oh, Lord.
I just went through that.
I'm sorry. That to me is the most frustrating thing. North Carolina, because of the opioid problem that all of America has, but in North Carolina, it's prevalent. And a few years ago, in their infinite wisdom to eliminate the opioid problem, doctors can only prescribe so many of anything, you know, and we just essentially switched from UNC Nash back to Duke because of the way your oncologist reacted to all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Because she was having horrible pain and was calling, trying to get relief. Well, you know, I really don't like to do that because it's so easy to get hooked on it. It takes me 3 days to get her to take something after she's been hurting, you know, and he's here, and I know he wants to protect his license,
Right.
but at the same time, he needs to be an advocate for his patient to help her get some relief. And it frustrates me.
It is frustrating. And it's not one of those things of just like, I have a pain that you can't see. It's like, I have Mets in my bones.
You should know that that's very painful.
You know,
right, exactly.
I avoided taking pain medicine for such a long time, and it was kind of affecting, like, being like functioning a little bit. You know, like, I was in a back brace. I was just trying not to bend over, and my radiation oncologist kind of sat me down. And he's like, "What's going on? Why are you just taking ibuprofen?" And I had to explain to him, like, I'm a person of color. I want you to take me seriously, and I don't want to come asking for a handout and saying, please give me pain meds so I don't feel any pain. Because statistically speaking, you won't take me seriously if I say something like that, you know?
Right.
And so he was just like, I do tramadol and ibuprofen, like, on a regular basis.
No Tylenol. That's all because I'm on a blood thinner and I can't use ibuprofen. So, yeah, it was kind of like limited, but all I was asking for was a consult to palliative care. That's all I wanted. And I was denied that. So, I actually had to have another advocate on the West Coast send emails to people that she knew, because she was a physician, to people at Duke and UNC to ask them essentially what the hell their problem was, you know. But finally I got a response instantaneously from Duke. And that's where I was going to get my treatment in the beginning when we moved back to North Carolina. But I wanted to go closer to home just to get an injection, because I was driving an hour, 45 minutes to Duke. And what injection, 10 minutes max, and then having to turn around and come back. So I wanted to stay closer to home, a 20-minute drive. And, you know, it was just an epic fail for me right now. It was just not a good fit. So, but this guy right here, it's different. He's very supportive, but I also am very independent. So, John went to appointments when I would ask, but a lot of the times I'd rather go by myself because he was busy. I mean, John into journalism and has been for 55 years, editors, publishers of newspapers and stuff like that. So it's like, why drag him along to sit and wait for a little bit? And then, I'm a big girl. But when I want him to be there, he's there. So I'm glad to have that kind of support from him from the get-go. So
does that suit you, John?
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Does that suit you? Do you like that arrangement of sort of being there when needed, but taking a step back, or do you sometimes feel like you want to go to more, but you're trying to be respectful?
It works. The only time it really doesn't work is if I get the feeling she doesn't want me there, and then she gets back and it's like, I really needed you there today, and it comes across like you let me down.
And it looks insensitive, and well, we're familiar with that. It's hard to balance. It's hard to navigate. And
it is, because I will go to war for this woman, and it irritates me. And going back to what you were talking about trying to get some relief from pain, these are oncologists, and they are dealing with this. This is what they chose to do, and they're dealing with it. They should have a feel for everything that goes on, because every day is a different page in our lives. So that means that some of those pages have flipped past before for these guys when they're seeing patients, and you shouldn't have to go in and tell everything over and over and over, because that's what really gets you to the point. It's like, my God, is nobody listening?
Yes.
Sorry, off my soapbox.
No, that's super frustrating. It's a frustrating part of the experience. Do you does your broader medical team seem like they're well connected? Does like your oncologist, if you do radiation, does your oncologist plugged into your radiologist? Is that person plugged in?
No, everybody's plugged in. And that's now that, I have a palliative care team that the doc is very much plugged into the oncologist. My team there is plugged into my primary care, which is located here, close to here. So I'm blessed because it took me a while to find a primary care that I want her to be the driver of my care. And she does well. She's had a bump or two in the road, and I'm not shy to say, to people that are caring for me, if it wasn't for the misfortune of people like me, you'd have a different job. Period. I mean, and it's the truth, so either you do it, or I'll find somebody else that will. And I have no problem, doing that whatsoever. But no, I believe I have a good, solid team.
That's sometimes difficult to find, because if you don't, it exacerbates the problem John was talking about, when you have to go to a radiologist and they're not quite plugged in. So you got to start your story from scratch and get them up to speed. And it's a very frustrating part of the process to have to do it over and over again.
It is. It's just like having to tell your story over and over and over and over again, So, it is.
You almost want to record it and
just hit play.
Hit the play button.
And just play it here, listen, and then just,
Yeah, exactly. So
I think that's interesting, Stephanie, that you like to go into, or you prefer sometimes to go by yourself, because I'm actually in that same boat. Like, I went to a lot of my chemos by myself.
Me too.
And I have two little kids. So I have a 3 and a 5-year-old, but they were 6 months old and 3 years old, 2 years old when I started all of this. And to be honest, like, it was kind of a break to go into infusion, to just listen to some podcasts or to some music and just sit there. So, no use having him there just watching me sleep.
Exactly.
So I'm just like, I'm just going to take this time. I know chemo sucks, but just kind of use it for some self-care and to quietness, like, how often am I going to be able to sit down for like 3 hours and just hang out? Never. So, I use that time to, like, yeah. And then, the same boat, like, I don't want to keep pulling him out of work to come to, I don't want to say they're frivolous, but like just regular appointments and, going over blood work and stuff. So, but I do pull them in on the times that I know that we're going over scan results or things like that. And that's always nice. But then you forget, because I feel like he gets more frustrated with my team than I do, because I know them all so well. Like, I know my oncologist is always going to be the optimist, and he's not going to give me a straight answer about my prognosis sometimes. He's always just like, let's just see if this treatment works, blah, blah, blah. But I know my nurse practitioner, she's going to give it to me straight, and she keeps it real with me, which I love. So I know how they balance each other out. Like,
right.
So, but sometimes when he comes to those appointments, he's just like, why won't he just say this? He knows that numbers are going to make you comfortable. I'm like, well, just talk to Anita. She will translate what Dr. Nibley's saying, and, and give us the information. So it's just, when he's not there all the time, I can sense some of his frustration as well.
Yeah, definitely.
But,
well, it's hard to navigate as a caregiver, because I think all of the movies, the TV shows, stories, they all follow the same format where, somebody goes in for their rounds of chemo and their mom's there, their dad's there, brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, friends, community, everyone's at the hospital.
Dog, cat, parakeet.
Yeah. And not every person with cancer wants that. You wanted to, and so it's hard for outside people, because it comes from a good place. They want to show up and support you. And it's really difficult to turn that down, because it's a good intention, and they're doing what we've been sort of like, what all the movies and stuff tell us supposed to. We're supposed to come rally around you, but sometimes
you're right.
Yeah, but sometimes you want that rallying from afar, and you can do that from your own home. And she wants to go to a lot of appointments by herself, and close family's like, well, let me go with you. I want to be there for you. And I think it'd be nice if people, there was an alternative narrative for people to say, you can offer your support, but also be prepared for the person to tell you how they can be supported. And sometimes it doesn't mean going to every appointment with you or bringing you meals every day. Sometimes it just means a nice text that says, how you doing? But that's it, and back off.
Right. And COVID is, COVID is bad for some things, but it's kind of funny that it's helped with that a lot, because you can't bring the dog, the cat, and the parakeet and the family to treatment with a picnic basket and a refrigerator, because you mostly have to show up by yourself. So, yeah. But it's
so if you don't mind me asking another question, and tell me if you experience the same with your own family, but I feel like after being diagnosed metastatic, at least for us, we become more comfortable talking about death. How comfortable are you talking about death with each other or even your family?
Well, see, my last 15 years of nursing as a hospice nurse, so I can talk about death with anybody. It was really hard to talk to John about death.
In fact, I haven't been comfortable with talking about it except within maybe the last year.
Yeah, and that was when we Duke offers their cancer patients, if you want to go see an attorney through their law school, you can get all your legal paperwork done, right? End of life plan care done. And it took me a while to get him to come to that point to go. But I'm very proactive when it comes to things like that, because I have seen the flip side of that where Momo dies and everybody is grabbing for the jewelry and the china before Momo's taken out of the house,
Right.
That conflict. And I don't want that. I don't want to deal with that, even with the children that are adults now. And I didn't want John to have to make those decisions at a time when he's grieving.
Because she doesn't want me to wind up killing someone.
Yeah, nah. So it's just that I'm very comfortable in talking about it, but I know when enough is enough with John. My daughter understands it. She's a nurse. My son doesn't want to deal with it. You know what I mean? He doesn't want to.
He's not as far along as I am.
He's not. He really isn't. And he's military. He's a major in the Army. So I've split. Drew's the financial guy. My daughter, Tanisha, is the medical person. But as far as my siblings, if they see, and you probably go through this, if they see you are good, it must be okay. And there's times when I tell people I fake it to make it. You go around, it's like, oh yeah, I'm great, when your leg is just about ready to fall off, oh no, I'm good. And then you turn your head, it's like, Lord, if this headache doesn't stay. But no, I'm very comfortable about it. It's all done. Yeah, they're gonna have a good time when they come to the memorial service. I have videos that I want them to see. It's all gonna be fun.
It's all curated. You already know. I can tell
that far along. And actually, I just bought a book. Just got it in the mail, Amazon. It's called got two of them. Shit that you need to know after I'm gone. The book is, you put like your passcodes and account numbers and all that stuff. He needs that, And then I got this other book for grandchildren, things about grandma or Mimi or something like that. And I got those for the younger ones, that, I, in my head, I want to be around forever, but just in case I'm not, they will have something there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's I have no problem in talking about it. It's a beautiful thing.
That's awesome.
You're really lucky.
that you feel confident and you're that you're at peace with that, because we are pretty comfortable talking about it, just because two things. I'm a control freak, and I'm also I find it very comforting to be as realistic as possible. I am an optimist, but I also want to keep it real. Like, facts and numbers give me comfort. And, as far as my metastatic diagnosis, like, I am in that, in the statistics. So, everything that's been happening, because I'm on my third line of treatment now. And I just last month I developed brain mets. So it's just, hopefully, the radiation zapped everything away and my new therapy will just take care of stuff. I'm optimistic that it will. I'm a fighter, I'm not going to just roll over, but at the same time, I need to know what the worst case scenario is all the time. I have a whole family I got to protect. And I just feel like when people who are uncomfortable talking to me about death, which I get, it puts me in a situation too where I feel like I have to protect a lot of people from not talking about it. And that's it's kind of a burden, you know, because I also want to prepare my family and I want to prepare my friends that this is happening. And sometimes the avoidance is just like, I get it, you know, but at the same time, it's just like, let's all like get on the same page that this might happen. Like, I don't want something to surprise you because things progress quick in this cancer world, you know?
Right.
And
but I know a couple of advocates that have had brain mets for over 10, 15 years.
yeah.
Yeah.
I've been meeting people recently. I was just telling Jasmine about this, that because it's a bummer to read about brain meds, you know, when I'm reading on the internet, or to talk to your doctors about it, because they can't give you like any solid answers about it. So kind of knowing people who are these unicorns that exist, that have been living years and years with brain mets, it's nice to know that they're out there. You know, it does give us a little bit of hope, and we're like where medicine is going. And so I'm just hoping that, you know, I can fit into their categories and their and kind of live with it for a while. That's my hope. But
most definitely, that goes back to something you said earlier about trying to protect other people's feelings, and just sort of, I mean, you're really just lying to people. You're saying, yeah, I'm good, and you're not, but you say it because you're trying to protect their feelings, and you don't want them to feel bad that you're feeling bad. And it's interesting because if you're have it, or you're married to somebody who has a terminal illness, you know,
it's not terminal
but you know what I'm saying, whatever, but you know what I'm saying, like it's not good. But you know, you get comfortable talking about these things because it's our life, but the people outside of our immediate family isn't talking about cancer every day. It's not a part of their daily life.
Right.
So when they ask you how you're doing, if you were to be 100% honest on exactly what's going on, it would be an overload for them.
It's true.
To, you know, to be like, well, you know, I have brain meds, all my bones hurt, I'm fatigued, I, you know, struggle to do simple things. You know, that's our daily life, so we're sort of used to it. But
they're out then.
But after you go through all that, you say, but then I'm in pretty good shape for the shape.
Yeah. But other than that, I'm doing good.
Yeah, that aside, everything's great. So, but it is, I just, you know, I think some of the purpose of this is to, like, you know, a broader education for people who don't have this. And I think that's something I wish people would know more about is, you know, I sometimes I can't remember specifically who, but I feel like I've had people who have not confronted me, but talking about like, oh, I didn't know all of this was going on. You said everything was good. I didn't know that all this was going on under the surface. You made it seem like things were okay. And I feel like they think they've been either lied to or betrayed, or, you know, and I wish people would know that, you know, we deal with this every day. And so sometimes if a person who doesn't deal with it every day asks about it, it's just easier and more comforting to just say, yeah, things are good. We're doing fine. Because the more you open up, and it takes a toll on you to try to offload that baggage onto new people who aren't dealing with it every day. And I know some people have felt like, in our extended family, feel like, you know, they're getting two pictures. Sometimes they get a glimpse into the real world of our lives, and it seems sometimes bleak. But then they also see like, but you guys said you were doing fine, or, you know, we asked, and, you know, it seemed like you guys said everything's okay.
You know, not dead is fine.
Right.
You know what I mean? Being alive is fine.
My husband would say it's better to look at the daisies from the top than the roots on the bottom, right?
Yeah.
That's great.
But yeah, it is different. So yeah. But I have a question. Dating. I know we're married, but do you guys still find time to go on a date? Or do you feel that every time you go out, quote unquote, alone, I know you have children at home, but do you find that it's all wrapped around the cancer diagnosis and the talk? Or do you try to talk about the weather, or the, you know, the neighbor's dog, or, you know, something else, or like you used to, you know, go out and talk about everything but?
Yeah. We do. We're really lucky. We have a really close circle, and probably for how long have you been doing overnights for? Like,
Not very long, but I think, you know, so we do have a close circle. We have really close family that helps out so much. Like my support team is solid, which I'm super fortunate to have. After this is going on a year and a half that I've had my metastatic diagnosis, almost 2 years.
about a year and a half.
A year and a half. And because of that, people have wanted to help more. So we do an overnight, like date night. We try to do one once a month.
Mm-hmm.
So someone will come over and just stay overnight, and we'll like do an Airbnb or try to do something like away from the kids.
Yeah.
Which has been nice because that way we can have like adult conversations that don't revolve around our kids. And, you know, he's my best friend and he has been for a long time. And a lot of what we used to do, like talk politics and all of that stuff, binge watch a show that night, you know, we'll do those things. And just every once in a while, the cancer stuff comes up because I got to still take my meds and I still got to do this and that, or I'm really tired or I'm in pain. But I find it that when we do get that chance to be alone, I think we really embrace it of just trying to be our old selves a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, things obviously have changed, like intimacy looks different now, or, you know, just what we can do, what I can do physically sometimes. Like before we would, you know, go on hikes and do all these really fun physical things. But now it's just like really just us just trying to be alone and just kind of connect without our little ankle biters around us trying to get our attention.
Mm-hmm.
But we have been good. When I was first diagnosed, I was an early stage diagnosed person, and we had to go on a learning curve for that. It was really, really hard on our relationship at first, to kind of like, for me to give up control, to have someone else take care of me. And then just, you know, the physical changes you go through and mental changes as you're going through your, all of these treatments. So it was really hard at first to kind of get on the same page, but we just kind of worked through it and do some therapy. And now I think we really try not to take that time for granted when we can be by ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But it takes a lot of work for us to get to that point, you know, just with childcare arrangements, for us to just like, even if we're pissed at each other, you know, like just to focus that this is our time alone, you know, this is like, we got to embrace what we can. Or if we're mad, you know, like, let's not be petty about it and let's talk about it instead of trying to get into a fight.
Yeah.
Because you know how easy that is. When you're ready to fight, you're ready to fight.
Girl. Throw down with the best of them. Yeah. And you know, and we're together all the time. And prior to COVID, man, I was busy doing other things, especially after I couldn't work anymore. And I tell people, and it's the truth all the time, when I had to stop working, that was worse than a cancer diagnosis because I wasn't eased into it. I worked as a nurse on Tuesday, and Wednesday I was out of a job, you know, so, and no insurance because I just started a new job when we moved back from Louisiana to North Carolina. So that was hard, you know, so I threw myself into other things that I could do. Was always, you know, volunteering for anything and everything that I could. And now that he's retired and home and I'm home all the time. Oh my God. We're home all the time. Oh my gosh. We're together all the time. All the time.
Yeah.
All the time. So it's kind of like opposite. We go away together to be together, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
We do. We can't do, like, we went to the beach. We went to the Outer Banks in September, and you know, it's just like a 2-hour drive. So it's like I sat there and we were like, man, we could sit at home and binge watch TV shows like this at home. John says, no, you can't. It's like, yeah, we could. John says, no, you can't. You'd be wondering about the floor needs to be swept, the laundry needs to be done, the dog needs to be walked, walls need to be washed or something. You couldn't sit down. And I can't. So we actually have to go away to be together.
That's a great way to say it. That really is.
Yeah.
And it's crazy in times of COVID, because in times of COVID, you would think because you are forced to be together so much, you're spending time together, but you're really not spending that time together. You're physically together. You're not spending the time together.
Right.
Right. So, yeah.
Well, and it's like with COVID, I'm retired, but I still work part-time. I write for a magazine and on a regular basis, and then I work part-time for a regional newspaper. Well, with COVID, the newspaper shut its office down and everything is done from home. So, my laptop is my office. And then the times I would get out, about a week ago, 10 days ago, we got an email to not do this, not do this, not do this. Saturday morning, we went downtown because it was kind of starting the Christmas season with something they do here in our little town called the Holiday Market. And I was going to go take pictures and write a story. And I took a couple of pictures and I turned to Stephanie. I said, I don't think I can do this. And she said, why? I said, well, that email that I got. I mean, we were going to go there to shop. But it was like, okay, you can go to do your things you're going to do. But if you go to cover something, you can't, because you might get COVID. And it's just,
Yeah, and I don't go out often. I mean,
she doesn't.
She doesn't. I do my walk in the morning, every morning. I do a walk, but as far as going to the grocery store, John goes. Errands to be run, John goes. Because I started having panic attacks, which I never had, or anxiety attacks. It's because I don't want nobody in my space. But I'm a hugger. You know what I mean? I don't know a strange person. But since COVID, it's like I don't want nobody in my... People talk about 6 feet. I don't want you within a mile.
Right.
So, but yeah, he's been doing the running around, and I think we've been COVID tested, or as they say, gotten a brain sample from my nose, more than enough, because our grandkids came for Thanksgiving and they quarantined, even though they do virtual school. My son works from home and my daughter-in-law works only part-time, 2 or 3 days a week. So, but they wanted to come for Thanksgiving. So they knew that I was a stickler. Don't breathe on me. Don't touch me. Don't talk to me if you've been around other people. So, but anyway,
COVID does add a whole other blanket of issues with the cancer stuff. Cause I'm the same way, where my anxiety just went through the roof when I think April and May were really hard for me. I was just so paranoid about it. And now that the cases are going up, I know that I'm more anxious too. Over this last month, we've been trying to keep our circles super tight, and it's really unfortunate because there's family members I do want to see. I'm lucky enough where I like my mom and my sister and my brother. We all live within the same mile. We all live in the same town.
Okay.
And we've all had a pretty good circle, but my sister has a lot of kids, and they're being the safest family I know out here, but still they're still going to school and doing this stuff. So it's constantly checking in, or we're getting tested tomorrow because we were around my nieces last week. And their schools had some exposure issues. So it's just this whole gamut, that it's mental stress, that dealing with that on top of cancer.
Mm-hmm.
It's really difficult, and it sucks because I want to see my family, and right now it's it seems like a good time for me to be making memories, and it just sucks that a lot of them are going to be through FaceTime or Instagram or whatever, you know, seeing my family.
On. Guess who's behind mask number 1? You know?
Right.
Yeah, it's true. That is true.
I do have another question. So obviously, like, this cancer stuff is so serious, but I don't think you could really like survive without it, with lightening it up a little bit. Is there like a funny thing or something that like really great that has happened since your diagnosis?
No, you know, as a matter of fact, I mean, I have always loved to joke and have fun. I mean, that's just me. And that's what I demanded when I was diagnosed, that, you know, if you were negative in any way, you know, I X'd out, and I did X out a lot of people. But I also, my sister-in-law started a Facebook group called Team Stephanie. And that's, you know, I tell it all there. And actually, one of my biggest cheerleaders is a little girl that used to beat my ass up on the playground and take money.
I got a message from her one time, and Stephanie said, "Oh my God!" I said, "What?" "It's such and such," and I kind of shrugged my shoulders. Okay, she used to beat me up. She had come across it, had read it,
Yeah.
and had one of those
aha moments.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're awesome. And found out that she doesn't live far from me, you know. So yeah, so that's kind of funny, but I don't know. I like to have fun with everything that I do. I mean, I really and truly do. But it's always been that way, you know. Even as far back as my husband, we met in a cave in Carlsbad, New Mexico. So, but anyway, that's another show. But yeah, we nothing in particular, but love to have fun. Love to have fun, and we love to travel. We love doing all kinds of things together. He's my bud.
And we just like to get out, and she laughs at me because I like to read historical markers.
Every damn one.
I was wondering who was reading those. So
They put them up just for him.
Yeah. I need a book that shows me where all of them are. But you know, I think one of the lighter moments we've had when we were in Louisiana, Stephanie had gone to the oncologist and saw this folder, this flyer on an organization called Little Pink Houses of Hope, and started reading about it. And we wound up making application. What they do is it's an organization based out of here in North Carolina, but they do about 23 retreats a year, you know, and they're starting to figure out a way with COVID to get them going again. But they bring in 11 to 13 families, and it's a week away from cancer. They have a volunteer for each family, and you have housing, and it literally it really just lets you get away from that. For me, it was good because there were other guys there, and three of us kind of bonded, and more than once we found ourselves sitting at a table talking about things, and well, how did you deal with, and but it was a moment. I know I'll never see my wife on a horse again, but we went horseback riding, and her horse didn't want to go. And when it didn't want to go, she was ready to not go, and they talked her into staying. But also, she did wake paddleboarding, And that's a video that I have that she's made me promise to hang on to, to show at the appropriate time. But we find ourselves with little pink houses. We found ourselves volunteering, and we've each gone to be volunteers with families.
That's great.
And that's one really good thing that has come out of this.
Yeah.
That's great.
Because you realize the time we went, there were 11 families. We went to Scottsdale, Arizona, and of the 11 families, 4 of the ladies are not with us anymore. Yeah. And you find, I watch Stephanie when she gets in her groups and sees about somebody that's not doing well. But when we would get a notice that, somebody was gone, I found that it hit me just as hard. Yeah. Because you bonded, you saw people, and you knew they were going down the same path as you. The steps might be different, and the pavers that you walk on might be placed differently, but you're going down that same path. And for me, emotionally, that was something that was really strong, and that's a group, especially with a couple of young ones like you guys have got. I would recommend Little Pink Houses of Hope, and just checking into it. And if you
funny, I literally just applied for them maybe 2 nights ago. The Little Pink Houses. I came across it on social media, and I was like reading the thing. I'm like, oh, I'll apply for it.
Yeah,
and I did. That's awesome that you guys were able to. Sorry about that. You guys were able to experience that. Yeah. I have a question for you, John.
Okay.
I know, it seems like families, tend to focus on the patient when they're going through this cancer journey, but caregivers, we kind of don't hear that narrative very often, especially when they're men caregivers, because, I don't know if you know this, but guys don't like to talk about their emotions very often. But if you were to talk about, I guess, if there's something that you'd want people to know about caregiving and what your narrative is, or your side of the story, what do you think that would be? I mean, is there a better way to ask that question? Let me think. What would you want people to know about your experience in caregiving for someone with a metastatic disease?
I think I would say to listen as much as you can. You can't understand it all. It's a different language. Your husband's an attorney. I'm a journalist. We have an education, but you get out there and de novo, all the different terms, and listen and ask questions. As a caregiver, I think that's the one thing I would do differently, and I think starting out in Louisiana with Dr. Socks, I didn't really need to ask questions, because when he was talking to Stephanie, he included me in those conversations, and he would use a medical term that she knew, and he would tell me, now that's what this means. Mm-hmm. Because I was married to a nurse, he didn't expect me to have picked up that stuff by osmosis. Mm-hmm. Now, her radiation oncologist we started with down there was entirely different. He had the bedside manner of a brick. And we're in a session with him one day, and he's recapping things, and he's literally going down a printout of dates. Well, on this happened, and this is what we did on this date, and this is what we did on this date. And then he gets to this date, and he said, and that's the day you found out you were stage 4. No, we just found out she was stage 4 when you told us.
Oh my gosh.
You know, and that was, I think, part of what Stephanie was saying earlier, you know, because even though she had been a nurse for all those years, there was things that she wasn't aware of, you know, but that's kind of a upside the head kind of way to find out, you know, and then the next thing you deal with is somebody using the phrase terminal. You know, well, I have no medical background, but I understand that. And that's the one that it took me the longest to be able to kind of wrap my head around, you know, but listen and ask those questions. There's, at that point, it truly is that old thing. There's no such thing as a stupid question. You know, the only stupid question is the ones I didn't ask, and I know there were some. Yeah, but we've been blessed with 3 really good oncologists that every time, and they're her first oncologist and the one she has at Duke now are worlds apart in the way they do things. But when both of them came in the room, they talked to her, which they should, but as soon as they got through with that greeting and asking, how are you doing? You know, tell me what's really going on. You know, I got the same question, how are you doing? You know, and they included me. And I think that's important, but you got to ask those questions. And I'm sorry, that's a long answer for probably something that should have taken a half dozen words. You know?
It's a great answer. I mean, like I said, we don't hear from this perspective very often. You know, we get a lot of the patient's points, and I don't know, Stephanie, if you're on the same side that I am, but I'm constantly concerned about my caregivers. It's a lot for me to handle, and you might know this because you're a woman of color, and we tend to, you know, we're strong, right? We have this really strong facade, and so and we take care of people, and so I'm constantly thinking about my caregivers and if they're taking care of themselves, because I'm asking so much from them a lot of the time. And at the end of it, I don't mean to sound morbid, but I won't be around, and they will be. You know, they're going to be left in the wake of my own death, and so I don't care what happens, or I don't care. You know, like at that point, I
don't care if it gets done. No, not me.
Yeah, you know, but these people are going to be who are left behind, and so I'm constantly thinking about that part, and it makes me, you know, my mom's a caregiver to my dad, and I just think about them all the time, just like what I wish more people would take care of them like people are taking care of me. That's all. So anyways, I guess my last question, or do you have more questions?
I did want to ask one. As you've navigated the journey that you've been on thus far, the internet, has it helped? Has it hurt? Has it scared?
For me, it's a lot of things. It does scare me because obviously, you know, you read about things that, for example, like the brain metastases. When I read about it on the internet, it doesn't sound like good news, you know. I mean, to be honest with you, when I talk to my oncologist and my nurse practitioner before, you know, I'm on my 3rd line of treatment, they're like, you know, we hope that you have a couple years with you. start preparing your family and preparing yourself. And I'm okay with that, but it bums me out as well. But on the flip side, the internet has been so helpful with connecting me with people who have cancer, who have metastatic disease, and who have given me like peace. Like they're part of my like healing team. I always think about them, like for the Breast of Us, for example, like knowing Marissa and Jasmine has literally changed my outlook and has connected me with so many people that has been so helpful, because I live in Utah, and my experience isn't the same with a lot of people out here with breast cancer, either because of my age, my race, or just general my own like personal beliefs. We're not LDS or Mormon. So because of that, I'm kind of disconnected with some of the people out here. But knowing these other support groups that I have online has been honestly life-changing for me. And hearing their stories offers reassurance, and it also brings me peace at the end of it, that I'm not the only person in this struggle or this journey or going through what I'm going through by myself. Whereas my support groups out here, I kind of felt like I was. So it's both sides, but I would say mostly it's been helpful just because I'm not into like, like holistic healing that much, or so I'm not on any of those fads of like trying just to eat ginger or, just celery or anything like that. So I don't fall into those pits, but sometimes, reading case studies or things about what my prognosis is, like every once in a while I get anxiety and just think like, damn it, like things can change quick, like I said, the brain metastases is new, so we're just like trying to process that in general, and we'll know more next month once we do more scans. But before, I only had bone metastases on my spine, which hurt, but as we know, like bone metastases is a little more manageable than anywhere else in your organs. So
Right.
But
Yeah.
How about you? Do you think internet hurts or helps?
I think it helps, but you're more into the actual like digging deep on some of this stuff. I feel more reassured just getting the information from our doctors and the medical team. I almost don't have a desire to even go dig into. I feel like I'm not qualified to interpret it. So sometimes I feel like I'm too afraid that I'm going to stumble across something that I misinterpret as horrific. And if I had the medical background, somebody could say it sounds bad, but it's actually not as bad as you initially think it is. So I purposely sort of avoid digging deep into it on my own. I rely primarily on our medical team, for better or worse. I mean, I'm less informed because I'm not doing that independent research, but I feel like my mental health is better, that I'm not constantly discovering new things on my own that maybe aren't helpful. Yeah.
It could be the same thing. Like, I'll watch a scary movie every day this week.
Nope.
This dude will not watch a scary movie.
Not a chance.
Ever.
So nope.
Maybe that's...
I don't understand why people would view being scared as entertainment. Life is scary. That's not entertaining.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
But so before we hopped onto this meeting, I sent you a message about just one question I wanted to ask the both of you. If you were to give advice to yourselves at the beginning of your diagnosis, what do you think it would be?
Big ride. Ask questions. I mean, that's all I can say. I can't say what I would ask or not ask because I didn't know. I don't know, but always ask questions if you don't know, which I do, but I wouldn't change anything, even the bad parts. I wouldn't change because it gave me insight to something else. So ask questions, be open. That's it.
Learn how to hit curveballs.
Yeah.
Make the big bucks.
It's like there's, you know, every time you think you've got something sort of lined out, you know, here comes a curveball.
Yeah. That's about it.
What about you? What advice would you give yourself?
I would, maybe this is specific to me or us. Hopefully not. Hopefully other people would benefit from it. But I would say that you know, the patient and the caregiver should both cut themselves and cut each other some slack. It's very, you know, I'm, you know, sometimes if I don't feel like I'm doing the right thing, I'll be really hard on myself. If I don't feel like I was supportive enough during a certain thing, or if I wasn't pulling more weight, or if I, you know, took time for myself, that I would feel like, oh, I'm being really selfish right now and I shouldn't be doing this. And I say just take it easy on yourselves, because it's new emotions. It's something you wouldn't know unless it's a very specific and unique thing that you can only really know if you go through it. And so, you know, whatever comes up emotion-wise, guilt, if you know, if we've ever been cross with each other, I then add an extra layer of guilt saying, you know, I shouldn't ever be mad at you for anything. You have cancer, and so you should have a free pass on any sort of, you know, I feel, you know, you already don't, it doesn't feel good to be in conflict with your spouse. And then add on top of that a layer of guilt that says, wow, how could you be so insensitive to somebody with cancer? You know, and I wish I would have just cut myself a bit more slack, not to let myself off easy and say, don't care, but don't be so hard on yourself when you make mistakes that are amplified because of the cancer. I mean, it never feels good to fight with your spouse. It feels worse if you fight with your spouse and your spouse has cancer, and now you feel like I'm making her life worse and I should be the one making it better. So, you know, maybe that's self-serving because I just want to feel better, but, you know, I think it would help to cut yourself some slack. Yeah.
That's good advice. I'll be a little easier on ourselves. Well, Stephanie and John, it was so nice to talk to the both of you.
Well, thank you.
It was your perspective is really great, and I'm glad to see that you guys are best friends and that you guys are getting through this together. And yeah, it's awesome. I'm just gonna do a closeout here, but everyone, thank you for tuning in for Baddie to Baddie. And if you want more information, go to thebreastofus.com or join Breast Cancer Baddies Facebook group to get more information or support. But yeah, it was a pleasure. It was so nice meeting you. And
Nice meeting you.
I hope everything's going well and that you continue to be Ned and you'll see your little grandbabies grow up.
Thank you again, and thank rest of us for giving us this opportunity.
Yeah, for sure.
All right.
It was so nice.
You guys later.
Have a blessed evening.
Yes,
Yes, really nice to meet you guys.
Happy holidays.
You too. Bye-bye.